barrels of strategic stocks under the control of Western governments run by the International Energy Agency. So I don't think we're in a situation yet where we can really sensibly call a $220 a barrel oil price.
Well, let's just take this scenario a little bit further then, if we can. If the unrest spreads to Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest oil exporter, what are the prospects for oil prices there? Does that mean all bets are pretty much off?
Oh, all bets are off. We've never had that situation before, and if you lose 6-7 million barrels a day from world oil markets, economies in the Far East, the United States and other countries would see a major disruption to their economies. The price rise, it would be impossible in those circumstances to speculate where the price could go. So it could well be that Nomura's $220 barrel figure, which they were positing as a possible consequence of the loss of oil from Libya and Algeria, that could then come into play. But it's completely uncharted territory.
We mentioned earlier the $36 billion in economic aid to help the Saudi people. Is that perhaps an attempt to avert a nightmare scenario like that?
Oh, it's a very, very clear sign that the Saudi authorities are concerned about the threat of contagion coming into their country. And these steps, a 15% pay rise and various other measures that you outlined earlier on are a sign to that they wish to meet any demands that may be placed upon them. But I suspect that a package even as apparently generous as this, it takes time for it to be actually implemented. It takes time for the money to work its way through the system. So it may well be that the package, attractive though it is, isn't actually enough to prevent a contagion if it's going to happen.
So how is all of this going to affect Europe's energy security? Because Europe's been down this road before with the gas dispute between Russia and Ukraine a few years back. That did affect supplies for a while. Are they in a position where they're able to deal with these kind of situations?
Well, under the auspices of the International Energy Agency, all governments in Europe and indeed further afield are required to hold a set level of oil stocks in reserve to deal precisely with this kind of emergency. So I would imagine, and indeed there was a public statement from the International Energy Agency earlier this week, that they would be prepared to release emergency stocks if necessary. The problem with that is that, of course, a barrel of oil here is not the same as a barrel of oil there. And it isn't just a question of sending along a barrel to replace a lost barrel, but because of differences in quality. And there are obviously logistical issues to be considered as well. But as a measure to deal with a shut-off of supplies from Libya and possibly Algeria, there are emergency stocks which are held for precisely this purpose.
So what's going to be the impact of all of this on the world economy? Are we looking at another double-dip recession?
I think we could be if prices were to escalate up through $120 towards $150 a barrel, the kind of levels we saw in 2008. The world economy is emerging from recession. There's little doubt about that. But the recovery is fairly sluggish. It's fairly fragile. And I believe that were we to see oil prices escalate to scary levels, then it could well be that the recovery is halted in its tracks and could even, as you say, dip back into recession. Oil prices affect everybody, not just the Western economies emerging from recession, but they also affect likely levels of growth in emerging economies in Asia and elsewhere around the world who find that their energy is costing them more. So higher prices or prices escalating very quickly are bad news for everybody.
All right, Neil Atkinson, many thanks for your time. Just before we go, we want to let you know that you can check us out online anytime. Just start at aljazeera.net/English. Hit the business tab at the top and follow the links to Counting the Cost page for episodes in full and special web-only content. And then when you want to get in touch, look for @AJCountingCost on Twitter. It's the best way to get in touch, share your thoughts and follow developments on the show. And that's it for this edition of Counting the Cost. I'm Hazem Seeker from the whole team. Thanks for joining us. The news on Al Jazeera is next.
It is in the details. A look. A connection. The moments that reveal the truth. Award-winning documentaries from critically acclaimed filmmakers. Witness documentaries to open your eyes. At this time on Al Jazeera.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
Uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
The Golan Heights, one of the spoils of the 1967 war, home to 20,000 Israelis and source of 1/3 of all Israel's water. But what of the Syrians left behind? With families torn apart and all borders closed, they come to talk to their loved ones across the Shouting Valley. Across the Shouting Valley on Al Jazeera.
Homes have crumbled and many buildings have been left just empty shells.
Tensions are high. Riot police trying to control thousands of Greek protesters on the streets of Athens.
A British court has approved the go-ahead for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to be extradited.
The Gaddafi is waging a war against the Libyan people. They are killing civilians mercilessly. They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
Personal blogs by professional journalists. blogs.aljazeera.net. This is Al Jazeera.
Hello and welcome to the News Hour. I'm Taimur Nabili, and from Al Jazeera's headquarters here in Doha and live from Libya, Egypt and Yemen, these are the main stories. Losing control. Libya's former interior minister tells Al Jazeera Tripoli is the only major city in Gaddafi's hands.
الآن ليست هناك إلا بعض طرابلس وبعض.
Now there is only Tripoli and a few other towns in Gaddafi's hands. That is why I urge the Libyan people that there is no going back.
Targeting Gaddafi, the US imposes sanctions on the Libyan government, and the UN Security Council is under pressure to take action.
The violence must stop. Those responsible for so brutally shedding the blood of innocents must be punished.
Home at last. Hundreds of foreign nationals managed to escape the turmoil in Libya, many of them describing what they saw as horrifying. And elsewhere, gunmen have attacked Iraq's biggest oil refinery, forcing the facility to shut down. Well, we begin, of course, in Libya, where the longtime ruler, Muammar Gaddafi, has made another defiant address, vowing that he will not be stepping down. This comes in the face of growing support for the anti-government demonstrators both at home and abroad. The UN Security Council is to meet again on Saturday to follow up on a draft resolution calling for sanctions against Gaddafi and his regime. This after the Libyan leader joined his supporters in the capital. Once again, he vowed he will not step down from office and he will fight to the end. Well, the implications of Gaddafi's vows are already being seen on the streets of Tripoli. Gunmen opened fire on protesters after Friday prayers, and we've heard of fatalities in that event. And 50 kilometers away in Zawiya, a different picture has been emerging. This amateur video appears to show more soldiers switching sides to support the protesters. Dan Nolan has more.
The battle for Libya is most intense in the capital. This video, uploaded on YouTube, is said to be filmed in the Fashloum district of Tripoli on Friday night. AlJazeera cannot verify the online descriptions that say these are soldiers kidnapping the bodies of two anti-government protesters. But it seems clear the people of Tripoli have endured yet another sleepless night. With much of eastern Libya in the hands of the opposition, the calls to take control of Tripoli from Muammar Gaddafi are growing louder. This from his former interior minister.
Now there's only Tripoli and a few other towns left. That's why I urge the Libyan people that there's no going back. Going back's impossible. We have to move forward. All the patriotic, courageous and respected Libyan youth should help the people of Tripoli to carry out their duties.
Another online video, which cannot be independently verified, appears to show more soldiers joining the fight on the side of the protesters. This is said to be filmed in Zawiya, 50 kilometres to the west of the capital, as the tide of opposition spreads through the military. This from Libya's head of special forces.
I place all my expertise and capabilities at the service of the youth revolution. I urge all honest members of the special forces, officers and soldiers, the heroes whom I have worked with for a long time, to rejoin their units immediately and to protect the gains of the February 17th revolution and protect the lives of the Libyan people and their property.
There's no exact figures, but it's believed as many as 7 protesters were shot dead during Friday's battles in Tripoli. Colonel Gaddafi appeared on state television in front of supporters in Green Square, insisting the population was still behind him.
The Libyan people, if I'm not loved by my people, I don't deserve to live. If my people, the Arab and African peoples, and all peoples do not love Muammar al-Gaddafi does not deserve to live only for one day.
But he simply ignores scenes like this in Benghazi, as the Libyan masses turn out to say the 41-year reign of Muammar Gaddafi needs to end now. Dan Nolan, Al Jazeera.
Well, our correspondent Hoda Abdel Hamid is in Al Baida, in the east of Libya, and joins me now live. Hoda, it would appear that where you are is now completely out of the grasp of Gaddafi.
Yes, it is out of the grasp of Gaddafi, but it's still a very volatile situation. You do hear sporadic gunfire once in a while. Local authorities who are trying